1965, when I was 18, I had my first car and I was driving through the valley down there, and I stopped to pick up a guy who was hitchhiking, and he got in and he said, "I've just come from a meeting with the editors of the Los Angeles Times." And I said, "Oh, yeah?" He said, "They agreed to put the focus on environmental issues. For 1 year, 1 whole year, they're going to pay attention to the environment." And I said, "Wow, that's great," because back then, people didn't think that environment wasn't an issue. There was no general awareness that we needed to be aware of the stuff in the air and the stuff in the water and the stuff that we're dumping on the land and the plight, the disappearance of animals and birds. And I got excited because for 1 year, the Times was going to talk about environmental issues. So here we are, let's see, 20, 30, 40, here we are 42 years later, and thank goodness more and more people now are becoming aware of the need to be aware of what we're doing to the earth and what we need to be doing to try and save it, basically.
There was one thing that was said about them, DOE and Boeing, self-regulating themselves. Like if it was a financial company, there wouldn't be any self-regulating, there would be auditing. You have to have checks and balances, and they've had no checks and balances. And DOE only has to answer to themselves. I was under the impression that when we formed the work group, that EPA could tell them you have to do this and this. EPA can tell them, but they don't have to do it. Literally above the law. However, this lawsuit showed them that they weren't above the law. It's now ordering them to do the EIR. Thank God, you know, really, in all of this, thank God we've hit people like Dan Hirsch. Without Dan Hirsch, we would have been nowhere. And you know, Dan Hirsch was the one who in 1979 discovered that they had a meltdown. He was teaching physics at UCLA, and his students came across this information. And now they've said it's one of the worst nuclear accidents because there was no containment for it.
Yeah.
You know, there's a certain amount with Rocketdyne that, and North American Rockwell that they were, and AI that it was in there at one time, that you can sort of excuse because they didn't know what they didn't know at that time. There was so much unknowns about radiation. But once they did know, then they did these cover-ups. Do you know, Rocketdyne is a felon. They have been fined the extreme sums that because it's a felon that they've committed. And then of course those two guys that got killed up there, and how they used to shoot the drums full of contamination to get back and shoot them to dispose of them. There was very little air monitoring at the time, and now they say they can't find their air monitoring records. And when we were doing the epidemiological study and they were doing the chemical contamination part of it, the fellow that was doing that was really at a loss because they didn't have any records. And you know what they told us one time? A deranged employee destroyed those records.
We know that this industry, which was Rocketdyne, you know, still exists today. And they took chemicals and radiological material that were from the old Rocketdyne facilities and the old Atomics International facilities, and they took it up to that site and they dumped it, or they buried it, or they ignited it. So I'm very concerned about the health aspects of that stuff. I'm concerned because we have the cancer clusters. I'm concerned because we have the retinoblastoma children, and I'm concerned about where did it go? Where was the, as they've cleaned up the facility, where have they taken both the radiological components and where have they taken debris, the soil that's contaminated? Because I don't believe that the soil was clean when they took it away, and we know that it went to local landfills, and we believe probably to Calabasas landfill. So, as I'm sure I was explaining to you last time, I believe that this whole West San Fernando Valley has areas that are highly toxic from runoff from the lab one way or the other. And we're just starting to touch upon that and to explore that.
We went in there, did what we were told, took the sodium and put it on pallets and stored it and stored the valves, and then we were out of there. We did it at night. And they try to say now that we didn't do that. Well, in the old days, when it's 1959, they used to trade personnel back and forth. And they're trying to deny that, too. The radiation isn't just in one place, it's all over. They had, up there, they had, I think they said they had 7 areas where they stored radioactive material up there. And that's just coming out. Here, this was, the testing on this was done over in the bowl area. We had a couple of them at CTL4 that we tested too. We were using different chemicals in it though, and
that bowl area that was that wide.
huh?
The bowl area that was like back over here where they did all the
Goes
testing.
back up in here, yeah.
Okay.
Too bad you can't go up there.
Yeah, that'd be really great to go up there and see it.
And here's another picture of that. See, this is an oversized version of that gimbal. We were using it. They were going to try to use it as a chamber to I don't know what the hell we were going to propel with it, but we ran a lot of tests on it. That was in 1960. And there's that same standing in it. We were testing the sodium on radioactive test stand. That was 1870.
Well, we know the answers to a lot of the problems up there. We just done nothing about it. We've done nothing.
That's scary.
We could be at least taking care of that which we know is fact and investigating that which we still aren't quite sure of. But this map that shows and this study that shows we're not sure what the source of the contaminants are coming from is a joke. And that's all that is, it's diversion. Well, as soon as we find out, certainly we want to take care of it. We know what it is. These contaminants are contaminants that were all used at the Rocketdyne site for years and years and years, and now they're all over the place. They're in the aquifers, they're on the ground. If you take a look, there was a meeting not too very long ago where they had a map of all these different contaminants that sit within Simi Valley that were either blown there from the winds and the dirt by the fire, and even over into Chatsworth, and they're all over the place.
Wow.
Now that doesn't mean that those sites are in fact at the level of being able to contaminate major areas or that they're going to give cancer to somebody. However, there's contaminants all over this valley. And if you take a look at the map that they themselves put out there, you can see all sorts of contaminants that are at the other end of Simi Valley.
Wow.
And the answer is why, and it's because of winds and fires, aquifers, and really the path of water and the contaminated water.